So I'm here today to talk to you about Wellington's drug intervention program. We call it LINK, which is Local Initiative Network Compassion. And in this process, as we've developed this program, people have said to me that I'm some kind of liberal goofball, soft on crime, which couldn't be any farther from the truth. Anybody that knows me knows that that's not who I am. However, when we started this program, what's happened is the system fails us. And so we were arresting people, and we were sending them to jail, and the judges would let them out on bond, and we would arrest them again for their crimes and put them in jail, and the judges would let them out again. And then in that process, sometimes the judge would let them out, and they would overdose. So we have this drug problem that the courts don't want to deal with, and in their failed compassion, they let these people out, which is the last thing they need. So we tried to look at what we could do to fix this problem. So what we started was this local initiative to network compassion. And what we did is we got together with our police, fire, and EMS for a couple of reasons. One of them is because we knew that nobody would ever want to talk to a cop if they needed help for a drug problem. But we got our fire EMS on board. We took the fire chief and EMS director down to a conference that the Attorney General was having in Columbus. And the fire chief was absolutely opposed to Narcan. Didn't think it was worth saving these people's lives. He went down, and as addict after addict that had got themselves cleaned up and got back into the working world and had beat their addiction, or at least it's a lifetime addiction, so had tamed it for now and got it under control, and they were successful. And when they were done playing those videos, then that person would get up and they would address the crowd. And then there was a mother of an 18-year-old girl that had become addicted because she had a sports injury, and doctors had prescribed her some opioids, and she became addicted. And in this video they're playing, the daughter talks about, writes in her diary about how she wants to beat heroin, that she's going to win this battle that she has with heroin. Well, unfortunately, the daughter dies. And it's a terrible tragedy for the family, but the mother now gets up and she tells her story about her beautiful daughter who had become addicted because of medical intervention, how she had died, and how this was now their battle to turn around and help these people. But during that process, what happened was the fire chief, who was absolutely opposed to helping anybody, he turned to me and he says, "Chief, we've got to help these people." Because what happens in law enforcement, really in all of society, what happens is we see the bad side. We see the addict, but we don't always see the successful part, the other side, and the recovery that happens. So we were down there to, again, fix this problem we had in Wellington, which was arresting addicts who were stealing from their families and getting out, and we just kept going through this process. So we wanted to offer them help. We got our police, fire, EMS on board. We got the city on board. And last but not least, we got our clergy on board. I went to a meeting. I asked to meet with some clergy. I thought I'd have 5 or 10 people there. I walked into the room for 25 or 30 different churches that wanted to be involved. And that really is the heart of the matter for our program, because what we found is addicts that want to recover almost always turn to the church. So not only that, but those people happen to be our volunteers. They're the ones that come in and sit with our addicts while they're waiting for the recovery coaches from Let's Get Real to come down and help them. So our program involves the entire town, involved our clergy, and what happens is I've had some of my guys didn't think this was a great idea, and I have to tell you quite honestly, I started this to fix a criminal problem we had. And that mission has kind of morphed over time, because when we first started looking into this, we heard the statistic that 80% of the people that use opioids are medically introduced to those. In other words, they had some kind of traumatic injury that they needed to manage the pain. And the doctors prescribe those opioids, and then eventually the doctor cuts them off without managing the pain like they should, or managing the problem. They just cut them off. What happens, these addicts, they go out and at first they try to replace the medical pills, the prescriptions that the doctors were giving them, but after a while that becomes very expensive. And so they eventually become involved with opioids and heroin because it's much cheaper. The problem is that's just the beginning of the downward slide. But our own statistics now bear out that 80% of the people that come in for help in Wellington are medically introduced to the opioids through the medical profession. So it's interesting because we think that people just make the choice to use heroin, but it's almost never that choice. The few people that do, none of those people ever chose to be an addict. Nobody grew up and said, boy, when I turn 18 or 20, I want to be a heroin addict. That's not who they want to be. They become that person. What we've seen, the successes are the people that have come in that have beat this addiction. They become very productive members of society. One of our biggest advocates, one of the early people that helped us a lot was Nicole Walmsley. She's with the PARI program. And Nicole has spent, I think, 1,000 days in jail. She was a distributor of drugs. She was a user. And she'll tell you herself that her relationship with the police was terrible. She would fight them and bite them and didn't call them very good names. And that's hard for us to see. Now, she is one of the biggest advocates for law enforcement that there are, because she's turned her life around and she understands that's who she was, but she says that's who she was because of the drugs, not because the kind of person she was. But those drugs drag her. And I'm not making excuses for the people that use drugs, but I am saying that we can have a positive impact in their lives. Because every cop I know, every man I've ever interviewed, every policeman I've ever talked to in a class, they get into law enforcement to help people. And yet, somewhere along the line, we get off that path. This is an opportunity to help people recover and succeed. Now, part of that program has involved Let's Get Real. They came on board probably 6 or 7 months after we first started this. We used the PARI project, which was Nicole Walmsley, and she would send people out. But Let's Get Real has become an integral part. In fact, now PARI sends people to Wellington, and Let's Get Real is the people we meet with. Let's Get Real are like our family. They come into the police station. They not only help the person that's volunteered to turn themselves in for help, but they become close friends of ours. Now, these are all people that have beat addiction and now want to help people out. So I think you'll find your relationship with Let's Get Real to be a very positive relationship. I think you'll also find that this program will help you to at least understand the other side of this issue. Now, in Wellington, we never excuse criminal charges. People that turn themselves in for this program do so with the understanding that they will always have to face criminal charges. If they don't walk in the door and ask for help, but we catch them in an alley shooting up, we will charge them with that and still offer them help. Every overdose we go to, we spend time talking to people and offering them the help that we'll give them, but we never excuse what they do. And we have been known on many occasions to write letters to judges or parole officers to pick up the phone and call police departments to see if they will hold a warrant in abeyance until we can get this person clean so that they could answer the judge while they're sober, because it'll be a much better solution in the long term. Thank you. Is that